I would take you on a bit of a tour and let's check out all the fruit trees that I have growing here at my Urban Permaculture Garden in Perth, Australia. So if you are new here, my name is Holly and I'm growing as much food as I can and converting more and more of my property into edible gardens. So I have 720 square meters roughly, and my soil is pretty much pure sand, so there's a lot of work to be done in terms of improving the soil, and it's also a really hot, dry climate here in Perth, so I have to think about shade quite a lot. So I have about 25 plus fruit trees at this stage, with more and more all the time, and I wanted to share what I've got with you at the moment before I get any more. So I thought it would be a really good idea to record a little bit of an update of where I'm at now, and that is with 25 plus fruiting trees, vines, plants. Fruit trees are one of my favourite things to grow, not only because I love fruit, but also because they produce more and more food each year as they mature, and they look really beautiful. I have a few different styles of gardens, and this one here is my food forest style garden. So I have this planted using permaculture principles, and it's got different layers, and that really has worked so well here. You can see it is nice and lush, and it has flourished all summer long when we have had lots of hot dry weather, and I don't have to water it that often because it retains a lot of moisture. So all I have to do is prune them, harvest them, and eat the fruits. And all of the prunings that I take from these trees goes back into this garden, so I do a lot of chop and drop method here. I've also got mulching and edible ground covers, and I'm covering my ugly back fence with edibles. So first up, let's take a look at everything we've got growing from one side of this garden to the other in terms of fruit trees. Then we'll take a look at also what I've got growing in pots, because I grow fruit trees in pots and containers, and then also out the front we'll take a look at what I've got growing. So first up here we have a passion fruit. This is the black nugget passion fruit, and it is not grafted, so that is really important, and make sure you check out my video on passion fruit if you haven't already to find out why to avoid grafted passion fruit. This one is really young. I only planted this 4 months ago and it's already taken off, and I'm trellising it along the fence here and going to help cover a lot more of this fence where I can't actually plant below it because of the concrete, but I can train this along the fence, and that's going to help reduce some of the heat from the fence and also provide me with lots of delicious passion fruit. I actually think it might be sending out some flowers, so I may even get passion fruit within the first 6 months of planting it, which is pretty exciting. And then down here we have a rosemary, and then a kumquat. So this kumquat was in a pot. I had it in a pot for a really long time, and I've just planted it out here, so I'm hoping that it's going to cover this part here and be a nice, really dense, bushy fence cover. And kumquats are prolific. They produce a whole lot of food on a small plant. So if you are growing in an urban environment or in pots and containers, this one is a really good one to grow because you're going to get a whole lot of fruit on a really small plant. And the great thing about kumquats is that you can eat the whole thing. So they are like a citrus, sort of like grape sized, and the skin is actually quite sweet, and then the inside is a little bit more tart and sour, which is quite different to other citrus. In between here I've just planted some Queensland arrowroot, so that is being transplanted from other areas of my garden, and that's a really good middle layer to have in between my fruit trees, and that produces some rhizomes that you can use like potato. And then here is one of my original fruit trees. This is something that I planted very early on when I moved here, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. So this is a Feijoa, and it is currently loaded in fruit. So I also have another Feijoa over here, and maybe another one in a pot over there. So these two here are just seedling varieties. They don't have a variety or a named variety, and that is something that I always suggest if you are wanting to buy a Feijoa or a pineapple guava, that you do choose a named variety. It's just going to grow a whole lot quicker, it's going to produce fruit a lot faster, and the fruit will be a lot higher quality. So But yeah, this one has taken quite a while to get established, but look at it. It's loaded. Alright, so moving along, in between I have my lavender, and that is something that flowers at the same time as the two Feijoas, so it attracts a lot of bees to the garden, which helps promote pollination, and I'm going to get a whole lot more fruit. So that's something that works really well in my garden. And in the corner here we have a lemon tree. This lemon tree was the only thing that was here when we bought the property, and it produces a whole lot of lemons nearly all year round. So that's a really, really good one to have. Down below it I have some edible ground covers of sweet potato. This is the other Feijoa here, and we've got a banana down here. This up here is an elderflower or an elderberry, and quite uniquely here in Perth in summer it produces flowers and berries at the same time, so you get sort of a multi-crop. I'm still undecided if I want to keep it or remove it. I'm thinking that I possibly am going to remove it just because it's such a vigorous growing plant, and I just don't think I'm going to utilize it as much as I thought I would, so I think that space might be better for something else. But I'm taking cuttings from it, so I'm going to continue to grow it in a pot, and I'm not going to remove it until I have some established already, and then I can pop something else in here. So next to that I have the Hawaiian Guava. So this is a tropical guava. It is beautiful. It has sort of like a greenish yellow outside and a bright pink coral inside, and it tastes really tropically, like it feels like you're on holiday, and it's so beautiful. So it is one of my favorite ones in the garden. The leaves are also can be used to make tea, so they can be used sort of as a substitute for green tea. So it has lots of different uses. And down below we've got lots of different edible ground covers and middle layer shrubs. Then this one here is my white mulberry. So I planted this as a little 30cm cutting, and I have to trim it back every year because it gets huge. It grows really fast. This is a really good one if you are creating a new garden and you need some shade really quickly. This is going to shoot up so fast. So any type of mulberry will do that, but this one here is a white, and it has fruit that tastes very different to the black. They taste like honey. They're very sweet. They kind of just taste like sugar, honey. And then coming along here we've got the strawberry guava or the cherry guava, and again this one is a super prolific plant. It has a whole lot of fruit. It's sort of coming to the end now of its fruiting. There's still a few fruits on it, and there are a few flowers, so it's going to continue to produce fruit for a little bit longer, but I have a whole bunch of them frozen so that I can make something delicious with those. And then more Queensland arrowroot down here, which really does take up this middle layer. And this sad little stick here, this is a bloodline, which is a really unique plant, and I had it in a pot but I moved it here, and it has been flourishing with lots of new leaves, but there's been a massive grasshopper out here munching all the brand new leaves, so I'm not very happy about that. I'm hoping that I can get it to still produce lots more leaves and survive, because I am really excited to get bloodlines. I got a few off it last season, and they are a really interesting fruit. And then obviously lots of edible ground covers down here. And then moving along, this area here gets a lot of shade, so it's a lot more sparse. There's not a lot growing because we get so much shade in this corner of the garden because of this massive Norfolk pine. So here I've got sweet potato growing up vertically, but I also have a passion fruit which is starting to take off now. So this is a gold passion fruit, and yeah, it will hopefully cover all of this dead space here. It is all pretty well established now. There's most of these are fruiting and producing more and more each year, which is exciting. And I'm getting to the point now where I can get really creative and start using them to make recipes because I'm getting such an abundance of them. So I love that, and it is my favorite part of the garden. It's also so low maintenance and I don't have to do much. But let's go take a look at what I've got growing in containers. So this are my container gardens, and most of these are annuals. This is my kitchen garden, but I have started popping a few sneaky fruit trees or fruit plants in here, just because I can control the environment in this a lot more by moving them in and out of the sun and the shade and caring for them a little bit more. So in here I have a papaya. So this one here is the papaya, and I've got a pot with the bottom cut off around it. I'm using this as basically a collar to stop the slaters eating the stem, because I've got slaters quite bad in this container. It's also right next to my in-ground worm tower, so the worms go in and out of this garden bed in here, and that's going to help feed the papaya. Lots of chilies, and just a lot of annuals gonna be all in around here. Lettuces and some garlic chives. So this area here is sort of just my temporary messy pots and waiting station to go out into the garden. So this is the pomegranate that I rescued. I got this for free. It was nearly dead. It's come back to life. But it is in quite a small pot, so I think I'm going to pop this into the garden. I think this is going to go where the elderberry is when I swap that around. And then I've got some mulberries that I've taken from cuttings down here. I've got a black mulberry and a white mulberry. This is a finger lime that didn't like our hot dry summer, but it'll be fine. Some turmeric. In here I've got a pineapple, and these are all passion fruit seeds that I planted from seed. So these are all red Panama, and I'm going to continue to grow this one in a pot, and I'm going to pot those ones up, and so I'm going to grow this one just in this big pot along with the pineapple, and see how that goes. And then over here, this is another Feijoa. This one is going to go out into the garden, probably in one of those gaps out the front. This one is a named variety. It's actually two named varieties. So it is a Duffy on the bottom, and then this section up here, as you can see, is grafted. So this is the white goose grafted on top. So I've got two different named varieties on one plant. And then over here, this is the goji berry. So it was quite warm today, so it's looking a little bit droopy, but we've got flowers on that. So the goji berries are wild, so keeping them contained in a container is a really good idea. And this is a newbie that I've just picked up. This is a fig. This is the tiger striped fig. So I've been looking for that, so I'm really excited about that. This one was labelled a mystery dwarf citrus, $15. So I had to get this, and from smelling the leaves I'm pretty sure it's a type of lemon, so I'm probably going to grow that in a pot. I've got another pineapple in here along with the asparagus, more annuals. And this one is my cucumber and Malabar spinach. So the Malabar spinach is a perennial, and then we've got the summer cucumber, which is just starting to crank out some cucumbers. Alright, so let's go and take a look at the front of the house and check out what fruit trees we're growing there. This is sort of a work in progress at the moment. Alright, so out the front of my house, these are some citrus trees, and if we take a look back at some of my older videos, you can see they've grown quite a lot, and it is so hot and dry out here. You can see the non-existent grass from summer. We don't water this grass or really do anything because it is going to be turned into something else. Future projects here. So I chose to plant citrus out here because they are more hardy and used to sun. They have definitely struggled a little bit, so the more I can start planting and creating more protection, the better. So there are some more trees going in the gaps here that will offer a little bit more protection. So these are dwarf or semi-dwarf. So the line behind me is a dwarf and it's right on the edge of the driveway, so it's not going to get too tall and outrageous. And then we've got a apricot in between, and then I have a bloodline, which is a semi-dwarf, a mandarin, which is a semi-dwarf, and a lemonade on the end, which is a full-size tree and is loaded with fruit. So I have some gaps to fill in here, and I'm going to start planting in this gap down the bottom. So I'm going to start doing a food forest style garden like I have out the back, with middle layers and a edible ground cover. So that is next on the list to start doing. Now that it's cooling down a bit, I can get back into planting, which is exciting. Lots of new growth on these citrus out here, so they have really struggled over summer, but there is fruit on them and lots of little bright green leaves of new growth, and I've given them a good feed. I need to remulch, but I'm going to wait a little bit till I figure out what I'm doing and get these trees in, the ones that I'm going to plant in the middle here. So in the gaps of these ones here, I'm going to plant some evergreen, really dense bushes to really create a screening, sort of like an edible hedge out here, just like I've got out the back. So I have got a few ideas of what I'm going to put in here, but let me know what you think I should put. Something that is evergreen and dense and got delicious fruit on it. Yes, maybe another Feijoa. So out here, this is out the front of my house, this garden here is got a whole lot of greens. So the sea of green is New Zealand spinach and also some sweet potato, random turmeric in here as well. And I have one fruit tree, which is the yellow cherry guava. So this is just like the strawberry guava, but it is yellow. It is one of my favorites. It has been quite slow here because it gets a little bit more shade. So we'll see how it goes. I may have to move that around a bit, and don't be afraid to move your fruit trees if you have to. I've moved quite a lot of mine. It is sending off lots of new growth, so that's a good sign. I have a bit of a thing for guavas, if you hadn't noticed, so I've got a few of guavas on my list that I am hoping to add to the garden, so I think those will go out the front in those gaps. I would love to get a larger white fleshed guava. I mean, I kind of want everything. I would love to get some grapes as well, and a few more subtropical interesting growing things, because I can grow them here with such warm weather, so I may as well give them a go. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit like on this video. It really does help my channel and I appreciate it more than you know.